Another week, another Football Tailgaters podcast where we go over hot topics in the NFL. Let me introduce ourselves, starting with our Jets fan, Yams, Andy, the unbiased fan in the group, and myself, Aaron. I'm a Cowboys fan. Got a lot to unpack, probably one of the craziest weeks in some words. You can say that it was pretty crazy for week 14. We've got a lot to talk about, and as always, very beginning, our weekly biggest surprise and disappointment. And we're going to go over, Mahomes and Andy Reid and the controversial ending. They say it was controversial. They don't really agree with the way that the Chiefs versus Bills games ended, the way it came down. And then we're also going to go over some Steelers, as well as the Cowboys, the Jets, and the Eagles. And we're always going to end it off with our fantasy updates and week 15 picks. So let's start with our weekly biggest disappointment for week 14. What was that for you guys?
For me, it's the Lions. They continue to disappoint, and they continue to prove to me that this team is more of a pretender than a contender.
What about that Rams and Baltimore game? It was a complete shootout. They went into overtime. Maybe it was the best game of the Sunday. And just the Rams just lost it in an unfortunate way with a punt return by the Baltimore Ravens. Too bad.
I'm disappointed in the NFL for showing us a Minnesota versus Las Vegas games that ended up being 3-0 with Minnesota winning. That was such a disappointing game. It was a complete embarrassment of a game in total. I'm disappointed in both of those teams in what they were able to produce. It was absolutely producing nothing. It was a whole bunch of nothing. One of the saddest scores I've seen as of recently. I don't want to see that ever again. That was disgusting. I'm so glad we didn't get to see that on a Monday night or Sunday night or even Thursday, even though Thursday games have been pretty bad. But I'm pretty disappointed in that one. What about weekly biggest surprise for week 14?
For me, I'm going to choose the Bengals. They're still hanging in there after losing Joe Burrow, that's being out for the season. So I for sure thought that season was in the gutter. But they're still in there and still winning games, and I'm pretty impressed.
How about how many backup quarterbacks we've been seeing in this season? I mean, we're talking about Browning, DeVito, Zach Wilson, Zappi, Drew Lock, Trubisky, Flacco, Dobbs. I can keep going. It's just too many backup quarterbacks. Even when the NFL tries so much to protect these quarterbacks, it just doesn't pan out. That's football for you.
Yeah, that's a little bit complicated because of the whole, you trying to put in rules for them, trying to protect them, but then it gets even still more complicated because they're trying not to injure them or trying not to do a certain tackle, and it could even get them injured. But it's been a tough year for quarterbacks. For a surprise for me, I think the Chicago Bears being able to put up those amount of numbers against the Detroit Lions. I didn't think the Detroit Lions were that bad, but I got to rethink this whole situation with them because I'm not liking what I'm seeing from them. It was a tough loss, and they're going to keep losing. And in a division where it's going to get pretty close, and especially just in the NFC in general, it's going to be a tough outing. So I can't see them going far in the playoffs. And I guess I'm seeing more clearly of what I guess the Detroit Lions are capable of. But credit to Chicago. I'm very surprised by that. So yeah, let's get into the main talk now. A whole bunch of things happen, right? But mainly, I think one of the highlights of this past Sunday was the ending of the Kansas City Chiefs game versus the Buffalo Bills. A whole lot happened at the very end where it kind of came down to the wire, right? And there's a huge play that, happened at the very end. Like, I think there was like a minute and 40 seconds left, and Travis Kelce caught the ball, passed it to Tony, backwards pass, whatever, touchdown, and that was to win the game. But Tony was offside, so it really caused some spark on the Kansas City Chiefs sideline, especially Patrick Mahomes. And after the game, Andy Reid was pretty disappointed in the NFL in general with the officiating, calling it kind of embarrassing with what happened for this game. And you can look at it and say what you want, but it's pretty clear that was a penalty. But I want to get your guys' opinion on this. Did Patrick Mahomes overreact over the Chiefs versus Bills game?
Yes, he is. He's crying way too much. Mahomes usually has these type of calls called in his favor, and this time it didn't. And just seeing how upset he is, it's just, okay, oh wow, it happened to you this time. It It happens to everybody. It happens to everybody on that in the NFL, and it happened to the Jets. So, and also, I believe Tony is probably always overstepping. It's just unfortunate it happens at the end of the game, and a game that changes the outcome of the game as well.
I love Patrick Mahomes' passion, but in this case, it's just completely wrong. All the time, every time that he gets hit, he throws his hands up. Every time that he throws a pass and the player doesn't catch it, his wide receiver, he throws his hands up, waiting for a penalty. And in this case, it didn't go his favor. I know we have a Jets fan here that just is a little bit traumatized for what happened on that game, like the Jets against the Chiefs, and it just didn't go to his way. So yeah, in this case, he is completely wrong.
I can see why they can kind of overcomplicate things in their head, but he is definitely wrong in this case, and I definitely think it's an overreact. But it's not to diss him because like you said, Andy, I really like his passion about what's going on or whatever, and what he puts into this game. And in this case, he was wrong, unfortunately. And you can kind of mention like, oh, he flails his arms, just, complaining, looking for a flag or whatever. Other quarterbacks do that too. Josh Allen does it too all the time. It's just kind of what the league has shaped into, to where you have to get certain play calling to get a flag or whatever you want to say. Like if you're trying to purposefully get a flag from, I don't know, whatever play you're trying to do, I feel like they do that now. I feel like that's a thing from what I remember wasn't a thing before, but until right now, where things are getting stricter in the NFL.
Well, look at last year. Look at last year, how they won the Super Bowl. It was a controversial play when the penalty was thrown, and the last almost play when it was like a illegal contact from the Eagles, and it helped the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. So hypocritical.
Can't forget about the whole thing that they added about reviewing the plays when there's a flag, so they can get an official review of the flag if it was a flag or not, right?
You mean the pass interference?
Yeah, for in general, whenever they throw a flag, they get double confirmation in New York, right? I don't know if you know about that.
Oh, like to just pick up the flag or not?
Yeah, to decide if it is a flag or not. So it's kind of like to speed things up. I mean, you're getting official review from multiple angles from another place, right? That can confirm fully if you're right or not, the referee. Now, the referees, don't get me wrong, they've been awful, right?
Right.
But in this case, it wasn't. It was a good call. And I can understand that because the frustration was the wide receiver has to check with the referee and okay that they're lined up properly.
Well, they don't have to check.
And they don't have to check, and that's the thing that they're complaining about. And I can see that. That's why I'm kind of understanding about the situation. But either way, it was a flag. It's kind of like a thing that they really need to figure out that in this instance, because this happened, how do you fix this, right? How do you fix this as a team? You got to make sure with the referees get on the same page, right?
I believe a while back ago when Tom Brady was with the Buccaneers, and well, actually with the Patriots, I believe. Tom Brady was with the Patriots, and they were playing the Chiefs, and I believe it was the AFC Championship to see who goes to the Super Bowl. And Frank Clark, I believe he was the defensive end for the Chiefs. He was offsides, but it was a miraculous like save to like prevent the Patriots to win that game than to go to the Super Bowl, and it didn't plan out that way for the Chiefs, and it was an offside type of the same situation but he didn't jump first. He was just on like stepping over the line, and it happened in this situation with the Chiefs as well. I mean, it's not like the game to go to the Super Bowl, but yeah. It's just funny how these situations happen. But like you're saying, I mean, the players can check with the official to see if they're lined up correctly. And in this case, I mean, Tony, he has been playing football for like most of his whole life, and he should be able to check on this. I mean, if you see that replay, you can see like he's almost like head to head with the Bills defender there, like almost like just face to face. Like, no, you're too in front. Like I mean, I know that games go in your head and you're playing and you just forget about things, and it was just a boneheaded move.
And that's why I said I think he probably gets away with it more often than not. It's just unfortunate it happens at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And
I think Tony has hurt them more than actually helped them.
Yeah, that is true. That's true. But Mahomes,
I think the GM has hurt Kansas
Mahomes
City Chiefs more.
so used to the fact that the league helps him to win games. game after game. And for the first time in his career, it just happens the other way around. And he says in the press conference, just let us play football, right? And he said he didn't complain about the last game.
Everything that he's been saying. Yeah,
he did throw his hands up. He was complaining.
Yeah, he's a big complainer. I don't like his passion in this way. I mean, his call didn't go this way, but I believe last game, there was a penalty issue with him, and that wasn't called, and he said the right thing, saying, these things happening, we shouldn't put ourselves in that position. But in this case, I guess it just went through his head that they made a huge play, an awesome play of Kelce throwing it back to Tony, and they went to win the game. And it didn't work out that way. That put it a little bit over the top for him, and he exploded. Which I like his passion. It's just he looked really, really bad, like a child.
It was a little bit too much. Yeah. Almost LeBron-esque.
A child.
Some could say.
Yeah, when if he doesn't get his way, or
he looked like he was about to throw down with the referees.
Exactly, like they were holding him back. Like, what are you gonna do? Let him go. What is he gonna do? Yeah, go and physically assault the official or something. Let's see how that goes.
Well, obviously, it wasn't going to go to that extent, but
why were they holding him back? Like, come on.
I mean, like, what is he going to go punch him, Yeah. Like, I mean, he's just going to scream at his face, but, like, they don't want him to get fined or suspended.
Yeah.
That's why they're holding him
back. That was the thing.
Okay. Yeah,
that was the whole thing.
Right there, yeah.
But
it would have been funny, though.
Man, he was. Yeah. It was funny.
It was funny.
Hey, some players get so frustrated with these guys because, like, let's be fair. The refs have been awful this season, and they're usually awful. So it can get to their head, and some may boil over, and it can go too far in some cases.
I thought he was yelling at his offensive coordinator for the last play that didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, it was like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah, I thought it was like another Eric Bieniemy situation, but no, he was losing it towards the official. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was really unfortunate to what happened to the Kansas City Chiefs, and this hurts them definitely. And now the Denver Broncos are an inch closer to perhaps getting. I don't know. I wouldn't jump the gun on that and say
Russ.
that maybe
here comes Russell.
AFC West champs.
Let Russ
Who knows?
cook.
Hey,
we still have a couple more games.
We do have a couple more games, but I gotta say that they're looking really good, and it's all how important a coach is. But we'll see. We'll see.
It was against the Chargers, and they lost Herbert. We'll see.
Yeah, the Chargers have big time problems. Hey, they have the Lions this upcoming week, so that's gonna be a great game.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Hopefully, good game in that. Snorefest.
Here come the Pretenders.
Yeah. What about, let's shift on over to a team that is struggling and has had a coach for probably, what is it, the second longest tenure in the whole league?
I would say
behind
so. Yeah,
Bill Belichick, right?
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin. So the Steelers lose against the Patriots, right? Thursday night. That happened a while ago. 28-18. And it was interesting to say the least. But I want to talk about the head coach, and they're under 500. The Steelers are, and Mike Tomlin has never had a season under 500. So we'll see how it goes, how it plays out. But for now, I'm gonna throw out this question to you guys: should the Steelers fire the head coach, Mike Tomlin?
I don't know. I'm a little torn with this one because every year he does have his team always fighting till the end. He's always either fighting for a playoff spot in the wild card or in the playoffs. But I definitely did not like how the calls that were being called, and he kept chucking it up there when they just needed 2 to 3 yards, and there goes Trubisky throwing it in the end zone for no apparent reason. I don't know. I'm torn.
It is a situation that he is a really good coach, in my opinion. But he's been there for a really, really long time. But it could be a situation that fans of the Steelers can maybe ask him to leave, but I mean, the grass might not be greener on the other side. They're always on playoff contention, but sometimes it's good for a coach, in this case, to move on to another team. Look at the situation with Andy Reid. He was with the Philadelphia Eagles for the longest time. He moved to the Chiefs and won a Super Bowl. So sometimes it is good to play in another organization. And if he does well in another organization, then Steelers fans can see how good they had it, and they didn't. They're gonna miss it.
They'll regret it.
They'll regret it.
Yeah, this is kind of, I wouldn't say exactly the same scenario with the whole Patriots thing, right? But I think it's time for new scenery for Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, right? What matters, I don't think at this point, I don't think they're counting if they go over or under 500. Sorry, I keep saying that. Because they're 7-6 right now, and they've lost some pretty important games. But also their whole like deal with what's his name, Matt Canada at the beginning was very distracting for them. I think probably it was the main thing that the Steelers fans were worried about, and also the Steelers in general, because I saw stats somewhere that said something about like the Steelers haven't thrown for over 250 yards in a game. I might be wrong, but it's somewhere along those lines. They've had a lot of trouble on the offensive side. Their defense is kind of the highlight of it. And right now, it's not getting any better with Pickett outright, Trubisky in, and you're dealing with some pretty inconsistent offensive rhythm, I guess you could say. The defense is really what's bright about this whole team. But aside from that, you're kind of stuck in the middle. And you don't want to be in the middle of the pack every single year, right? You don't want to barely get into the playoffs every single year when you know your team is not fully capable of it, right? You've got the pieces for it, right? But maybe it's time to move on from the head coach. I'm not saying Mike Tomlin is terrible, but I think it's complicated.
I think Bill Belichick and Mike Tomlin are sort of in the same situation, that they've been with the organization for many, many years, but now they come to a situation that they don't have a great quarterback like they used to. Tomlin had Big Ben, Belichick had Brady, and now without a quarterback, it's really, really hard to win. I mean, we can all agree that you need a quarterback, a legitimate quarterback, to actually go into the Super Bowl. So it's just that situation. Look at Andy Reid. He got his Patrick Mahomes, and he went to the Super Bowl. Yeah. So it's just a situation that you just need a legitimate great quarterback, and it's not that easy. And these fan bases are just used to having great quarterbacks, and that's why they call for the head coach's head. It's really, in my opinion, disrespectful.
Yeah, and I think either Mike Tomlin or Bill Belichick going to the Chargers, a team like that with a quarterback like Justin Herbert. Can you imagine?
I've been saying he's the Ferrari. It's a Ferrari, and they don't have right now a driver that to know how to drive that car.
Or parked in a house.
Yeah, if you put Tomlin or Belichick in there, forget it. It's gonna be awesome. Even though they're both defensive-minded coach, I'm sure that they're gonna put the organization into a respectable scenario to actually win. But they need a legitimate quarterback.
If they do move on, I do like Mike either going to Chicago Bears or Chargers.
The thing with Chicago is that is Justin Fields the guy? We don't know. We know that Herbert, everybody can agree Herbert is a legitimate quarterback, that type of talent that can get you to the Super Bowl. And with Fields, you don't know. That's why the Chicago Bears keeps moving and moving on from head coach to head coach to head coach. And they're like moving from Trubisky, now it's Justin Fields, and now they're going to get another quarterback maybe. We don't know. It's just that's not how you do with organizations, and you need a legitimate quarterback.
But from that quarterback draft class, who's still a starting quarterback? Trevor Lawrence
and Justin Fields.
And Zach Wilson.
Nah, he's a backup.
And Zach
it's
Wilson.
complicated
Zach
over
Wilson
there.
is now, but the only ones that are not in there is Trey Lance and Mac Jones.
Regardless, it's that quarterback year wasn't the greatest year, and we'll see what this upcoming one.
Another detail I want to bring up is Mike Tomlin's contract is up after the 2024 NFL season. And usually if you want to keep your head coach, you sign an extension like, what is it, a year before or 2 years before, sorry. Usually they get extensions before the contract is up, basically.
I wouldn't be surprised if they extend them.
It's hinting that they're going to move on from Mike Tomlin, and I think it's going to be very painful because I don't think they should get rid of him. I think they just need a good quarterback. And some good wide receivers, because I like George Pickens, but and Deontay Johnson's that's a whole I think they need to move on from Deontay Johnson.
George Pickens might be a really great wide receiver, but we just don't know because they don't have a they don't have a quarterback.
No, he's a great wide receiver.
Yeah.
And they need to maybe kind of rethink their situation with Najee Harris. That's another thing. Other than that, I mean, tight ends are pretty good. Pat Freiermuth or something like that. I think that's how you say it. he seems pretty good. It's really what you have to focus on this offseason. So sadly, I think based off of the whole contract situation with Mike Tomlin, I think the Steelers are going to move on from him. So hopefully not for them. I think it's best for him to stay there. Let's move on to the next topic. I want to talk about the Dallas Cowboys, right? They had a huge game against the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm trying to contain my excitement, right? I'm not trying to overreact because the other time I overreacted was when Dak Prescott wasn't doing so hot and I was over him, right? I think that was personally an overreaction. But we're going to talk about Dak Prescott here and their amazing win. He didn't play all that great. Dak Prescott didn't play all that great. But it was really an all-around solid performance from both sides of the ball. The Dallas Cowboys pull off the win against the Philadelphia Eagles 33-13. So I'm going to ask this question. I don't know. This question's kind of offensive to me, but I can't really say much because maybe a couple of weeks ago I would have considered it. But now, is Dak Prescott a fraud?
Here we go.
Oh, boy.
He's not a fraud. He's playing pretty good. Unfortunately, it's against teams that are questionable, but then a lot of teams in the NFL right now are not dominant. So he is a senior now, right? We have all the best quarterbacks that left: Tom Brady, Ben, Drew Brees. So now we just have Dak Prescott to compare to, guys like Derek Carr, Patrick Mahomes, Jared Goff. These guys are not wow, right? So yes, he is showing.
Well, Patrick Mahomes is wow.
Okay, besides him, but he is showing to play better than the other ones, right? Jared Goff and the other person I just mentioned, I just forgot. So yeah, he is playing good, but he's not being challenged enough.
It's just funny how in the media, when the Cowboys do like destroy other teams, and let me just say, most of the teams that they destroy is below 500, they put them super, super hyped up. And with Dak Prescott playing at the level that he's playing, it does look like he's playing amazing football. But we come back to history and just are expecting him to fall down when the playoffs come. And I don't know any other quarterback that is talked about in the NFL that you just wait for the playoffs and say, well, he's not going to make it into the Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson is another one. They always cannot get to the Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson, but we don't hear about that. Josh Allen is another quarterback that he always falls behind do not get into the Super Bowl, and we don't talk about him that much. It's all about Dak Prescott. So it's still up in a scenario that it's a wait and see type of game. They are playing good football. He does have a good defense that can help him out. I'm a little afraid of that running game. It's not that great of a potential. He's throwing a lot of many times compared to other quarterbacks. So we'll see.
I don't think they overhyped the Cowboys. I think they just put them highly because they just perform well. And you can't really say, okay, they're just bad teams. All right, good teams fall to bad teams too. It's happened. The 49ers, they frauds because they lost to, I don't know, who they lose to. At the time it was the Vikings, right? Are the Philadelphia Eagles frauds because they lost to the Jets?
Yeah, they're frauds.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that the Eagles are necessarily frauds.
No, they're just they're having some trouble.
They're having trouble, and every team goes through their trouble.
Right.
And the Cowboys, we all know their trouble. We all know it. It's so obvious. It's the postseason.
I think
right?
the Eagles is a
when
different
they're able
scenario.
to come through the.
It's a different scenario because the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, and after you win the Super Bowl, a lot of your pieces go away. So they lost players, they lost their coordinators. So it's really hard to keep that momentum going to the following year.
No, I'm talking about this season. No,
I'm just saying that they did well, and I mean the schedule is what the schedule is, right? So the Eagles compared to the Cowboys are really close because they kind of have had easy schedules. And the Eagles are finishing up their hard schedule, and now they're going into an easy schedule. And now the Dallas Cowboys had an easy schedule. Now they're going into their hard schedule. So they're pretty similar in their situation.
Yeah. Same reason why Tom Brady couldn't win it again. He lost a couple of pieces at Tampa Bay.
But it's what are we saying here about the Cowboys? And what are they have missing pieces, right? But they're still able to perform highly against tough teams whenever, at least in the past, right?
What
It's
tough
happened
teams?
before.
If you can give me examples, I can tell you, yeah. But I don't have
I mean,
good examples.
Are we just gonna scratch off this game as like, oh, it's just pure luck?
No, this game is actually a legit game. But I've told you from last time when they played the Eagles that the Cowboys actually shot themselves in the foot. I didn't see the Eagles as a better team that game. I saw the Cowboys losing that game themselves. And in this game, everything worked out. The turnovers went their way. Last game, when the Eagles had a fumble, they were able to recover. In this game, the Cowboys were able to pick those up. So things went well in the Cowboys' way. I'm just saying that we can't just say that the Cowboys are a legitimate huge contender. I mean, it's only the 49ers. The good thing that the Cowboys have actually is that there's not huge threats right now. Yams was saying right now that a lot of these superstar quarterbacks are gone. So we're now in a new generation type of quarterbacks and teams that you are able to compete. It's more like a level playing field for these new quarterbacks that came in compared to the Peyton Mannings, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Drew Brees. So
Yeah.
it's a more level playing field for
Because
them.
in the NFC, who do you have as a threat as a quarterback besides Matthew Stafford?
Well, the game's not about the quarterback. The game's about the team. And what the
Technically-
49ers have is an elite team that can complement a good quarterback piece that's good enough in someone like Brock Purdy, right? Who's not always going to play his best game. We've seen it the same way with Jalen Hurts, right? We've seen it the same way with Patrick Mahomes. It's really hard to come by someone like Tom Brady, right? And even he had his bad games. But what I'm trying to say is that you can't, I do see an elite team, and this is the 49ers, because they have had the more complete team when it comes to the offensive side and the defensive side, right? You can't discredit them that. You see this conversation in the MVP conversations, right? When they're talking about the MVP and who it should be. And a lot of people say it should be Christian McCaffrey, and that's not the case because Brock Purdy's up there because it's a quarterback award, people say, right? And why would you give it to Brock Purdy, right? He's not awful, but he's good enough to get you through these games because you've given him a good situation, a good scenario, right? You've given him someone like Kittle. You've given someone like McCaffrey, Ayuk, Debo, right? A great defense. It's a complete team. The Cowboys are not a complete team. They don't have a running game, right? That's not a complete team. The Eagles are not a complete team. That's the secondary that is awful, right? They're calling for the defensive coordinator to be fired. They want players in the secondary out of there. It's tough. It's really tough. But these teams, one of these teams is going to be in the Super Bowl, right? Even though they're not complete, because it's hard to be complete. And this is a rare case with the 49ers. I think they're the most complete team in the NFL right now. The weakness, what would you say their weakness is? Brock Purdy? Well, he's been doing pretty good apart from those 3 losses in a row against the Browns, Bengals, and Vikings. But he's been pretty good shape in the other games.
Yeah, it is Brock Purdy, but he has 3 massive weapons. He has Christian McCaffrey, he has Debo, he has Kittle. So as long as the game plan's working, he'll be fine. But if you look at the past Super Bowl teams that won, they have really good quarterbacks. And I look at the NFC conference, and I don't see any quarterback that's dominant anymore. I mean, Tom Brady was in Tampa Bay. He's gone. You have Geno Smith, come on. And we have Stafford, who I think it could be something that could hurt teams because he has that experience and he is a good quarterback. Who else?
Jalen Hurts, but I believe he's
I
sort
don't
of
know.
injured.
Jalen
He's not
Hurts
the
is
not the
playing.
same.
He's not playing the same.
Yeah, I think his knee is not. They're really, really protecting him, and I think that's something that we're going to talk about in the next.
It's a season by season thing. There's going to be we just talked about this. A whole lot of quarterback injuries have been happening. Right? There's been a struggle with that. And they're not always going to be playing at 100%. So this is why I'm saying it's really hard to really determine on just one thing on I completely agree. There's no Tom Brady right now in the league you can compare him, right? Who else besides Tom Brady, because he's the main one,
Aaron
right? But there's other quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers, right? But right now he's injured.
Yeah.
It's someone comparable to Aaron Rodgers? No, not really.
No,
right?
not right now.
It's tough to come by talent like that.
All the good quarterbacks
closer
are
in
in the AFC.
Yeah, we have,
so the NFC is wide open, and I think Cowboys have a good chance of getting to the Super Bowl this year. I mean,
it's going to come down to the 49ers. And
it's going to come down to the 49ers.
And I still think the 49ers are way too superior because they have so many weapons. And the only thing that you can attack is the quarterback to get them out of there because the quarterback controls everything. And that's what happened last year when he went out of the game in the NFC Championship against the Eagles.
Yeah.
You took him out, and it was over for the 49ers.
Well, no, they have Sam Darnold. We all know how I feel about Sam Darnold. So
let's move on.
But yes, you're right. It's going to come down to the 49ers. 49ers is the only team that's going to stop Cowboys from getting to the Super Bowl.
That's a fair point. If you put Sam Darnold in there, you think that would be the same? I don't think so.
I do.
Ooh.
Well, it might happen.
No, I think Brock Purdy's better.
Yeah, I think so too.
Sorry.
We'll see.
But it's kind of true.
Seen him
I don't know why you're still a Sam Darnold fan. He's not even wearing a Jets uniform.
I don't know either. Just I have issues.
He looks exactly like that bad guy from The Incredibles. I forgot his name.
The Syndrome.
All right.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't think Dak Prescott is necessarily a fraud. I think this is one of his best years. But again, it's the postseason. It's gonna come down to the postseason. We've seen him play great before in the regular season.
Watch the media
and
kill
of course
him.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Let's not be sheep and just follow the media because one bad game, we're already talking about how bad he is.
I'm telling you, it's gonna come down to the playoffs. If he doesn't win or whatever,
throws an interception,
then it's going to come down to that situation.
He did fumble the ball,
unless he plays extremely, extremely well, and for some other reasons, like it just didn't go for that. Yeah, exactly.
He did fumble the ball against the Eagles.
Yeah, but
no, it wasn't his fault.
It was his fault.
No, it was his. But if he picked himself up and continued to play really well, it didn't hurt him. So he is playing well.
Yeah, but imagine if it went the other way around.
Yeah. Well.
Wait.
Yeah. It was a pick six.
Yes, it was a pick six. Yeah, but let's say that the Eagles stopped them, right? And then they came back and scored. Whose fault is it that they get close to winning or,
That's why I said the Cowboys have a good defense. So
I know, but if it went the other way around and that pick six turned to more points for Philadelphia,
right,
it would have been a different story today.
Well, it's a week-to-week game, so.
Yeah, I think he's really got the postseason left to prove. We've seen what he's capable of, and we know he's capable of being a good quarterback. But can he keep that up? And that's the hardest part is the postseason, right? Because it's just one game and you can't mess it up. So there's a lot of pressure for him. But right now he's riding with all the confidence he has, right? He has a kind of new confidence that kind of sparked in them. I see a little bit more of an attitude on the field, which I kind of like.
Yeah, I think it has to do with him becoming a father soon. Maybe he needs to win the Super Bowl.
Maybe. That's interesting.
You know?
You never know.
Yeah, I think so. That could be like an added motivation.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Hopefully it's all the way this season, but it's going to be San Francisco's really the hard one, but I can't count everyone else out because it's the Cowboys. Anyways, let's move on to some extras and talk about the Eagles and specifically about a comment made by David Carr. What was it on? It was on social media. It was on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Basically saying that the Eagles should start Mariota over Hurts. Oh boy, that's a hot take and a half, and I want your guys' opinion on that.
You know what? When I first heard this, I was like, "What a stupid statement." But now that I see, him playing against the Cowboys, and now I'm not seeing him play like he used to, like last year, running the game, running with his legs, and really attacking the game. You can tell he's playing scared and he's protecting his knee. And am I crazy that I kind of agree with David Carr now?
Yeah, you're both crazy. That's an absurd comment.
Let me finish. Maybe they should adopt a little bit of the NBA and do load management.
No, because you're trying to get the number one seed so you can have a bye week. No, you go with the guy that gives you the best chance to win. It's still Mariota. That tush push, who knows if it'll work with Mariota in there. So, no, you still go with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is still your number one guy. He's still one of the top quarterbacks in the NFC. No, that's an absurd observation from David Carr. He is absolutely not right. He should not be a commentator.
Oh, yeah, no, I completely disagree with David Carr. I don't know. It's just some people just have crazy opinions, and that's one of them. You go with the guy that took you all the way, right, to the NFC Championship last year. And you go with the guy that's been producing, right, not all the time, but he's been one of the better quarterbacks of the NFC, if we want to just go down a little bit more specific rather than the NFL, right? Because, AFC's got their side of the quarterbacks, but NFC, right? One of the best quarterbacks there. And they shouldn't, simply because, look where they're at right now. It's part because of Jalen Hurts. right? I think if Mariota have been in there since the beginning of the season, they wouldn't be 10-3, and it'd be a whole different story.
And we're talking about Mariota. He's been jumping from Tennessee to the Raiders to the Falcons and now to the Eagles. He is not capable enough to. No, it's just an absurd observation. He was a clickbait type of comment there.
Yeah, I don't really agree with that. But let's move on to the next one and talk about Aaron Rodgers. So Aaron Rodgers seems to be medically cleared by December 24th. That seems to be the case, right? So should he play after he's cleared?
I would say so, just because there's been so much story within all of this season with him, if he's going to come back or not. Even if the Jets are out of the playoffs, which technically they're still not, I would still go in and play, because it is a good story that he was able to come back from an Achilles injury in the same season, which is actually unheard of. So yeah, just make it happen. And even if he gets injured, he'll have the whole offseason to recuperate again.
Okay, no. I am rooting for the Jets until they're mathematically eliminated. So as of right now, they are not. I know they have 11% chance of making the playoffs. So let's go win out. Let's have this man can play, and let's make the playoffs. You never know. It's the NFL. Surprises can happen. And yeah, I would like to see Aaron Rodgers play.
Unless they're in the position to where, because he's cleared to come back on the 24th, which is the same day that they play the Commanders. After that, they got the Browns and Patriots. So unless the last two games they have to win it, I would put him in, which is so risky and crazy, right? Even with all the, hype around the way he had his speedy recovery with his Achilles, right? Some voodoo magic going on, some spells maybe he's doing, whatever went on in the background, right, of what he does. It's amazing to see, first of all. It's great that science is advancing that far, right? But talking about the situation, right, with the Jets, and it's really only he should play only if there's a chance that the Jets have in making the playoffs. Other than that, no, sit him out. Even honestly, I mean, I wouldn't doubt if they're going to be conservative about this and just don't risk it all and don't start him. I can totally see that, and I think that's what's going to happen unless they're really, they have a really good shot at a playoff spot. That's the only reason. They're sitting 5-8 right now. 5-8, third AFC East. Where are they sitting at in total? They're 14th in the AFC, and they're behind, if we're talking about having a chance, because right now I think the Texans are the ones with the last playoff spot, right? Or is it the Broncos now again after that loss?
I think it's Pittsburgh.
Well, you know what?
No, Pittsburgh's at. Oh no, wait, Pittsburgh's
in.
No, you're right.
Pittsburgh's
Pittsburgh's
in. Bengals are in, and no, Texans are out.
It's still wide open. The AFC is still wide open. That's really funny.
Jets, Jets. I'm still optimistic.
What do they need to do? They need the Bills to lose
out, and they need everyone to lose too.
Okay.
It could happen.
In a world, yeah. I mean, you're rooting for the Cowboys if that's the case. This next Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
The Chargers need to lose out. The Raiders, Cincinnati, totally possible. But I don't know. Russell Wilson over there in the Broncos, it's looking kind of tough.
Yeah.
I think the Texans are out of the playoffs now with all those injuries that they got. Colts is kind of tough. I can't really say much about that. I think Steelers are going to be out too. There's totally a chance, but I think they should sit him out because it's 11% chance of. Can you trust Zach Wilson to win you the next couple of games?
If he played like yesterday, then yeah.
If he plays the way he did play.
They got the Dolphins next.
Hopefully he's still pissed.
Miami.
Hopefully he's still pissed and he continues to play the way he plays because.
Hey, I don't know what came about him in that game against the Texans, but he was doing pretty good. They got the Commanders after the Dolphins, and then they got a tough game with the Browns, and lastly the Patriots. So really, it's if they win against the Dolphins, then there's light, I think, at the end of the tunnel. I mean, there is still technically there's an 11% chance of light.
Don't get me nervous. Let's just relax.
I mean, I personally, if I'm in your position, right, I'm just looking forward to the off season, right? I'm kind of counting this out. If they win games, then that's exciting because with Aaron Rodgers back, it's only better,
Screw
right?
That. I'm tired of looking forward to the draft. I want to win now. Screw that.
Well, you can't get that desperate because then maybe I'm not gonna say anything because then I'm gonna jinx it. I don't want to. I don't want to do any kind of jinx.
Yeah, let's just relax. I don't want to break
Keep
another
that-
TV.
yeah.
It is the Dolphins. I am known for breaking TV, so let's just relax.
Yeah, and the Dolphins have been known to kind of struggle against teams either around the 500 or below. So there's something to look forward, even though it did not go well on Black Friday. Let's move on to the ending and talk about the fantasy updates. So why don't you talk about that, Andy?
Yeah, we're coming up to week 15 in fantasy. Let's get ready for these playoffs. So it is going to be hard to look at players because of injuries. So let's start off with Ty Chandler, the running back for the Vikings. He is rostered in 22% of leagues. Madison went out in this last game in injury. And Ty Chandler, he held most of the snaps. It wasn't great. It wasn't amazing, but if you need a running back that needs the full load, that would be Ty Chandler for the Vikings. Next, we have Chase Browns, the running back for the Bengals. He's rostered in 7% of leagues. Since he came back from injured reserve, he has been helping this winning streak for the quarterback Browning and the Bengals. He scored a 54-yard touchdown this last Sunday, and a week ago he rushed for 61 yards on 9 carries, so he could be one of those big surprise flex players. Finally, we have Jerick McKinnon, the running back for the Chiefs. He's rostered in 41% of leagues. Pacheco's injury news is getting worse and worse. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he handled most of the snaps, but McKinnon was used on the scoring plays. So he's kind of like the hunt for the Chiefs. So I would just take a chance on him if you really, really need a running back. That's all the fantasy news.
Right. Good luck to everyone out there, whoever's in the playoffs or not. What about the Week 15 picks? Now we're inching closer to the playoffs. We have a couple more weeks left, right? This is the second week of December for football. So what are the Week 15 picks?
NFL Week 15 picks. We'll start off with the Thursday Night Football, the LA Chargers against the Las Vegas Raiders. Now we have Herbert that he injured his index finger. They're going to be playing a backup. And the Raiders had a horrible, horrible game against the Minnesota Vikings. It might be a huge bore. Unfortunately, another Thursday Night Football dud. But it could be also interesting seeing these two duds play each other. I'm going to take the Chargers just because they're more loaded in the offense and defense than the Raiders. Saturday morning football, we have the Vikings against the Bengals. So the Vikings, they bench Dobbs. They're going to go on with the other quarterback, and the Bengals have been rolling with Browning. I'm going to be taking the Bengals because they did win a really big time game against the Jaguars, and it seems like they can roll around and just continue their winning streak against the Vikings. Browning has been shown a lot of potential, and he's been hitting that big time target chase, so I'm going to go with the Bengals. Saturday afternoon, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Colts. Trubisky is still on the helm for the Steelers, and the Colts, they're still playing really, really well. And this particular game, since the Steelers are not playing really well and they've been doing really questionable plays, I'm going to go with the Colts. They just seem like they're just a little bit more organized, even though they've had their injuries, but I'm going to be taking the Colts. Saturday night football, we have the Denver Broncos against the Detroit Lions. For me, this could be one of the games of the weeks. We have the Denver Broncos just rolling up each week, getting better and better. They're letting Russ cook and that running game as well. And the Lions, they've just been showing that they're pretenders. They showed a lot of big time flashes with their offensive weapons, but they've just been struggling week after week after week. So I'm going to go with the big momentum here and take on the Broncos. The Buccaneers against the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay has been playing really well with Jordan Love. He's been showing that he could maybe be the quarterback of their future. And the Buccaneers, they have Baker Mayfield, and he's just been an average quarterback with some weapons with Evans and Godwin. But it seems like they keep on struggling, and I blame mostly on coaching. But for this game, I'm going to be taking the Packers because they've just been figuring out to win every single week. The Dallas Cowboys against the Buffalo Bills. This might be the game of the week. The Dallas Cowboys have been steamrolling opponent after opponent, and they had a big-time win against the Philadelphia Eagles. But let's not throw away the Buffalo Bills. They did win against the Kansas City Chiefs, even with that crybaby Mahomes yelling because he didn't get his way. The Bills is not a team that you should take too lightly. So I'm going to be taking the Cowboys just because they look very, very strong potentially on the defense and on the offense. Sunday Night Football, we have the Ravens against the Jaguars. The Ravens actually just came off of a win against the Rams with a punt return that maybe could have even been a game that they might lose. I have been saying that the Ravens might be the Super Bowl AFC contender there, but now that I'm seeing them struggle, it might be a really hard game against the Jaguars, even though Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars have been having their struggles with his ankle injury. I'm going to be taking the Ravens just because it seemed that they're a little bit more healthier than the Jaguars. Monday Night Football, we have the Philadelphia Eagles against the Seahawks. Man, the Seahawks, they were playing really well against the 49ers in the first half, but unfortunately, the 49ers just showed their dominance on offense and defense, and they just steamrolled over the Seahawks. The Eagles, they have their issues. I believe Jalen Hurts is still a little bit injured with his knee. He doesn't look like the same Jalen Hurts that we've had, and their defense is non-existent. But I still say that they still have good enough weapons to beat the Seahawks, so I'm going to pick the Eagles. And those are the Week 15 picks. A lot of games for Saturday and Sunday, so it took a little longer.
Yeah. I mean, that's three games for Saturday.
Yep. But
I think definitely the Broncos.
I'm not sad about it.
No. Definitely not. Definitely not. Yeah, we're coming down to the wire already, so that's pretty exciting. Hopefully, we see some good games and not a Vikings versus Raiders game. Don't want to see that ever again. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys to those who made it to the very end. We'd love to see you guys giving your opinion with us on our social media, which is football_tailgaters on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Thank you guys again for listening, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.